Thanks for joining us for this episode of Coffee with Closers, where business leaders share insights on how to build businesses from the ground up and best practices for innovating in their industry.
Hey Michelle, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely, Sam. Thank you.
So for the audience never heard of you, can you share a little bit about who you are?
Yes. I am Michelle Damico. I am the CEO of a 10-year-old boutique public relations and marketing firm based in Chicago. It's called Michelle Damico Communications. You can find me at michelledamico.com. My clients are primarily in the B2B space, meaning we serve other businesses who need public relations, who need the third-party independent validation that a story will bring to them and help their businesses grow by attracting new customers, generating leads, increasing their thought leadership.
Mm-hmm. And the typical companies that you work with, what are some of the business goals that they have in terms of leveraging a PR agency?
Their goals, they're normally mid-market companies. They might have revenues of anywhere from $50 million to $300 to $400 million. Mm-hmm. And they want to compete with the giants of their industry. And PR enables them to do that because I can get them a placement in Fortune.com or Bloomberg in which they're being quoted in a story alongside the supply chain manager for Walmart. Mm-hmm. So when that happens, their competitors take notice and their prospective customers take notice because they're viewed as experts.
So when most of the time when you think about talking to small business owners, they're not marketing in general is not a priority, and PR is probably the second in their priority list, right? So what are some of the things that you need to educate the customers around the importance of PR and the importance of marketing? What have you had to do to get them to understand the importance of it?
Well, there are a few things. PR is trusted. I don't believe this whole concept of the trends in fake news because especially trade outlets, if you're a logistics company or if you're a professional services company, a consultant, a banker, a lawyer, you rely on the trades to get the most current, up-to-date information about what's going on in your industry. If you're a manufacturer who needs to ship products, you don't have skills in logistics. You go to the logistics trades to learn about what's happening and how you can find the best companies to serve you. So public relations definitely elevates your profile. Public relations, if done well, and if done with patience, because you are not going to get customers overnight, but a steady stream of positive stories about you in the news will attract attention. I've had clients literally in the last few months tell me things like, Michelle, we had a trade show booth every year at ProMat at McCormick Place. Nobody ever knew about us. Now they're coming to our booths and looking for us. Or our CEO told us that he's never gotten so many emails after seeing how he was named one of the top businesses in Tampa. That's because of the power of PR. And when you see website traffic increase over a period of time, that's the power of PR.
Makes sense. So basically, if it's not something that you seek out PR help when you had a crisis, you almost need to have a PR strategy in terms of building your brand awareness, building your brand reputation in the marketplace.
Yes.
And getting mentions and coverage.
Yes, it's all about strategy. In fact, very often clients will come to me and say, I need to put out a press release. We're having a new product launch, and I want a press release about this new product. Well, we put together a strategic plan because it's not just the launch, it's the messaging behind the launch. It's how to interest reporters about that product. When reporters don't care about a product, they care about what you've done for customers, and they care about what your customers have, how they've used the product or how they've benefited from the service. They also don't care about a standalone launch unless it's relevant to their beat, to the trends, to the seasons. So you're always looking for ways to latch on to something in the news or latch on to something that's seasonal in order to generate interest from media.
Makes sense. So it's not like a quick fix. So I need a press release. So hey, let me hire some PR company to just go publish that. I mean, if all you want is like $300, you can go do it yourself.
Right.
You really don't need anybody's help. But what you really need a cohesive plan in place of why you're doing this, right? And then also not just a blitz, but more of like a cohesive plan that executes over a period of time.
Here's a perfect example. One of my restaurant clients, they just opened up. Yes, we could have just put out a press release about the fact that they're open, but our comprehensive strategy looks at, all right, what is surrounding this restaurant? A big arena, a big convention center. How do we reach out to those people to make sure they know about your restaurant? What's happening in Chicago seasonally that we can latch on to? We know Restaurant Week happens next year, but we have Labor Day coming up. Then we have harvest season, and then Halloween, and then Thanksgiving. How can we create some kind of activity in the restaurant, an event, a giveaway, a special tasting that attracts not just the convention goers and the Wintrust Arena fans, but the neighbors? How do we develop a month-by-month plan to generate awareness about this new restaurant? It's not just one press release.
Obviously, you've been at this for quite some time, a little over 10 years, right? And
I've owned my own business for 10 years. I've been in PR for much longer time.
Much longer. So obviously running an organization is different than working in this space, right? And so prior to doing this, you said you were a reporter. Talk to me a little bit about that experience.
Yes, my first jobs out of college. I was a radio junkie when I was in high school. I wanted to be a disc jockey. And so I went to school to become a news reporter because I fell in love with the news in high school. And my first jobs were in Chicago radio. I spent 15 years as a news reporter, covering stories on the street, based out of City Hall, and just going anywhere imaginable. I've covered all the presidential campaigns since Jimmy Carter, between Carter and Clinton. I covered airplane hijackings, crashes, business crises, the stock market crashes. I've covered it all, plus city council. And so I use my skills as a storyteller to go into public relations. And I became I was Mayor Daley's communications manager for his 95 re-election campaign. And after that, his chief of staff came to me and said, you know, Michelle, we have this thing called the Mayor's Internet Project. This was 1995. We need to bring it to, it's being run right now by the University of Illinois. We need to move it to Chicago and we need an editor. I was the head of the first director of the city's website when nobody knew what the internet was. I had to teach employees about the consumer-based internet and why they needed to learn to use the internet to communicate with constituents, stakeholders, how to find jobs online, how to register your bike online, how to use an interactive map. What is yahoo.com? I had to teach employees how to use email. And so I became the marketer of the website. And we sold Taste of Chicago tickets in 1997 online. We were the first government to transact e-commerce online. So I left, I had my first child, left city government, and worked in PR ever since.
So what lessons have you learned in building a business that you think is transferable to anybody else who might be watching?
I think you'll appreciate this answer because I tell this to so many people. We are our own walking brands. No matter, if you don't think you have a brand, you are so incorrect because we all have a brand. We all have a brand value and a value proposition. And the more you know about your value and how to communicate it, the more effective you will be. Because everybody knows your brand, and if you don't know what it is, you need to learn it. Ask your friends, ask your colleagues, what makes me stand out? What is it about me that you enjoy and that you gain knowledge from? So I communicate that to all of my clients, especially when trying to identify their stories, when I'm looking for that news angle. That's the number one thing I've learned about being in business, is communicating the brand proposition. And also, since being a business owner, there are so many things that as a business owner I don't know. And it's just so much smarter to turn to the people who do know rather than to try to figure it out myself. Because I want to focus on what I do best, and I also want to focus on mentoring my employees so that we really strive for superior customer service, not just to our clients, but we serve reporters. If we don't do well in giving reporters what they need on deadline, really clearly, in a real short period of time, so that they're not doing a lot of work, when we fulfill all of those things for reporters, our clients get great stories. But if we don't serve them well, I cannot afford to have unhappy relationships with reporters.
Yeah,
So,
because you're not just using them once, you have other stories in the future you need to use
and
their
as a
help.
result, I have reporters contacting me on a regular basis saying, I'm working on this story, do you have any sources? And my motto is, if you are not my client, I may still reach out to you, because I always serve the reporter, because I want that reporter to keep coming back.
Make you a resource.
Yes, keep coming back to me.
Makes sense. So obviously, some of the lessons you're covering is, take care of your clients, also your partners, like your reporters, and you don't always have all the answers, so you got to be humble enough to ask people who had prior experiences.
Yes.
What other things? Obviously, running your organization it's not a simple task, right? You got to win business, you got to service the customer, you got to also keep your family happy, which is your internal teammates. But how do you do all that? What are some of the things that you do to juggle all of that?
It's not easy, Sam. I don't know how you do it, but I'm really working hard at it. We have spent all summer trying to plan a vacation because we just needed the hour-long conference between my husband and me to sit down and plan a vacation. So it's so important to take that time and to have the me time every Friday. For the first time ever, I booked my Fridays. My team knows not to bother me on Fridays. My team knows that is when my day is blocked, and I'm either working on my business or I'm working on getting refreshed and rejuvenated. That's a lesson that's taken me 10 years to figure out, and I have to admit, I'm not the greatest at it. My husband will say to me, "Are you going to work tonight?" Because he wants to watch something on Netflix with me, but he knows that I'm catching up at night. So that's a struggle, and it's not healthy. So take it from me, it's not healthy. That's one thing. Another thing, I'm a journalist. I'm a trained and educated journalist. I am not good at reading balance sheets, cash flow statements. I have learned that through the recent program that I have went through with Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, where I got a great education on how to keep track of my own business finances and how to forecast growth. I am still learning that. But I've learned in the last 15 weeks how to have a better relationship with my accountant, which I didn't have. I relegated that to my husband, the business manager. But now I'm meeting with the accountant instead of my husband, because I want to be conversant in everything that's going on in my business.
So if you had to do it again, the same thing you're doing today, right? What would you do different, knowing what you know after doing it for over 10 years now?
I would have taken a few business classes. I took a statistics class in college and I hated it. That was it. I wish I would have taken an accounting class to have had a more well-rounded academic background. That's one thing I regret. I didn't even take a marketing class because, I wasn't going to sell. No, I was going to be a radio broadcaster. I wasn't going to be a sellout. But what I've learned now, I'm selling every day. I'm selling right now while you and I are talking, because people want to work with people they like. So they're not buying my service, they're buying my relationship. And I love my clients, and I don't want to work with people that I don't like either. So I get it. Selling is not selling out. Selling is developing relationships.
Yeah, I had a guest earlier that told me that, you know, there are professional salespeople, then there are professionals who sell, right? You are a professional who sell.
Yes.
Because your professional, you know, service is the PR service that you offer. You just so happened to sell what you are a professional at, right? So I think we can't put a sales hat and say, hey, I'm a salesperson, but you just so happen to be an expert in what you do, and you're helping customers by providing that expertise that you have for them.
Right.
And then based on what you just told me, like you mentioned, like college didn't really prepare you for a business leader, right? And I think our colleges don't do a good job in that. Like we give them, you know, our students electives as something that they can just take whatever they want, and people take music and whatever, which I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I think some of these things should be almost a requirement, like business classes, accounting classes, marketing, you know, finance, all sorts of stuff should be some fundamental courses that every student should take in their schooling, because it doesn't matter whether you become an entrepreneur or not. It's only going to make you indispensable in the organizations that you go into, because you have a well-rounded knowledge of everything that's important to build and run an organization.
Oh, I agree. I wish somebody would have told me, Michelle, take a step back. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 5, 10, 20 years. Get some knowledge. But I didn't have anybody doing that. I had professors giving me great advice about what my radio career should look like after college, what I should be doing in terms of the news.
But nothing to prepare you to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
Makes sense. So the other question that I have is, obviously you're juggling a lot, right? And you're building, winning customers, managing all of that. Are there any productivity hacks that you use to stay productive and you know, to prioritize? I know you said you have a blocked Fridays, that kind of your me day. Are there anything else that you do to stay efficient in what you do?
As a journalist, I always took great notes. And I always had because I was a broadcast journalist, I always had a microphone and tape recorder. So I do use the record app on my phone, although I never really need it because I'm always bringing my laptop with me. My laptop goes wherever I do. I cannot take notes
on the phone.
On the phone. So I take excellent notes of all my client calls and all of our conferences. I just came from a networking meeting where there was a presentation. I pulled out my laptop because there were several people I wanted to remember to go and find after the meeting. During media interviews, if I'm on the phone with a reporter and my client, I'm on mute taking notes because I learned so much about my clients when they're interviewed by reporters, because reporters will ask them questions that I didn't think to ask. So I get new story ideas by listening to the interviews and taking notes. So I guess note taking is my hack, and to remind myself to do things, I make calendar appointments. For example, it is a bad thing, a bad habit to set if I'm emailing my reporter at 8, my clients at 8 or 9 at night. I might be working on an email at 8 or 9 at night. I send a calendar invite to myself to email the client the next day at 9 a.m. I write the draft, have it in my drafts, but I don't email it. And I could use Boomerang, I could use some of my tools, but sometimes I would just rather know I've hit the send button myself. So there's a hack.
So you're very good at taking notes, which I'm also like ferociously taking notes when I'm in client meetings, and I have to reference those back because it makes me realize I did understand, right? Clarifying points, things of that nature, and it's just the natural curiosity that we have, right? And it also helps you remember things better because you did take notes and you were just like zoned off when you were in a conversation.
Especially if a client is meeting with you because it's the first meeting, they're thinking about hiring you, and they want a proposal. Nothing is better than using the client's words that you collected while you were note-taking and using those words back in that proposal. It shows the client you were listening
And you understood.
And you understood. And even if that means you had to Google some abbreviations to understand what they were talking about, that gives you more knowledge. So yes, that's why you take notes.
And here's a question that I have for you. If you had $1 million or an opportunity to be with Warren Buffett for an afternoon, which would you choose? Gosh,
you've read all those stories about people who donate $1 million to have lunch with Warren Buffett, right? If I had $1 million, I would do that. He is a rock star. He's someone who I know I'd benefit from knowing, and I hear he is so down to earth, and he replies to emails. I would love to do that. Yes, I'd give up $1 million to have an hour with Warren Buffett.
Awesome. Any closing thoughts for our audience?
PR is valuable if you know how to use it well, if you're really savvy about who your target audience is, and if you have a strategy behind your PR initiative. PR is valuable in developing a value proposition that will help you throughout your life, not just through business. So know what your value is, know what your brand is. And if you don't know what your brand is, ask others because they'll tell you.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining me, Michelle. Appreciate
Absolutely. I loved it, Samuel. Thank you.
This episode of Coffee with Closers is brought to you by One IMS, a leading digital marketing agency helping businesses win new customers. To request a free marketing ROI audit, please visit oneims.com. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. To make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe.